At my birthday gala, my husband's secretary tiptoes to whisper by his lips, cooing that a fleck of frosting clung to them. To everyone's shock, Kingston simply hooked an arm around her and licked it clean with his mouth. When we got home, I asked for a divorce. He looked at me, annoyed. All this because of a little frosting? You used your tongue, I corrected, calm. Serafina, can licking frosting kill you? You're blowing a sesame-sized thing out of proportion. Fine, divorce it is, just don't come crying later. He was certain I couldn't live without him and would never actually leave. But how could he know? Even the deepest feelings wear thin when trampled again and again. Whoever wants this garbage marriage can pick it up. Before we continue, please subscribe and comment where you're listening. That night I told my parents I was filing. They were startled but backed me. Sure enough, Kingston started the silent treatment the next day. Blocked on WhatsApp, calls rejected, even scrubbed from his gaming friends list. Standard operating procedure for every fight we've ever had. He assumed I'd cave and beg like always. This time I stared at the add friend button, and never pressed it. A week later the staff WhatsApp thread pinged. Tonight the boss hosts a project milestone dinner, mandatory attendance, no excuses. I showed up so colleagues wouldn't suffer. The moment I stepped into the private dining suite I spotted Kingston at the head of the table and Brielle practically glued to his side. She was leaning in, lips brushing his skin, their bubble impenetrable. Whatever she murmured made them both laugh, intimate and blinding. I looked away and took a corner seat. One by one co-workers stepped up to present gifts and toasts. I kept my eyes on my drink. Soon a shadow fell. I lifted my gaze to Kingston's flawless face, still wearing the usual irritation. Serafina, where's my gala gift? In the past I would have started planning months ahead. The year I went all out, I spent 8 hand building a spacecraft replica from his favorite film, Interstellar. When the lights came on he hugged me and swore we'd stick together forever, just like the movie. I believed him, never guessing his forever wouldn't last 5 years. Forgot, I answered, level. That single word ignited him. Serafina, are you done yet? A whole week of tantrums over nothing? I stared at the faint lipstick on the corner of his mouth, Brielle's shade, and felt only revulsion. I'm not throwing a tantrum. The divorce petition is real. His face stiffened, but when Brielle curled her fingers around his confidence snapped back. Sis, don't get me wrong, Brielle murmured, syrupy. Just now he wouldn't touch that pastry, so I helped finish it so it wouldn't go to waste. If you hate me so much, I'll stay away from the table from now on. I can wait until everyone's done and nibble leftovers. The moment the words left her lips Kingston's heart broke for her. Nonsense. You belong at this table. The one who shouldn't be here is the diva who thinks the world revolves around her. Kingston, don't be mean to sis, Brielle added, turning to me with fake kindness. Serafina, I'm sorry, but you're overdoing it. He hasn't slept properly all week. You two are different, but you're still married, show some understanding. I flung off the hand she reached toward my shoulder. Brielle, know what I admire most? How you can steal someone's husband and still play the innocent little angel. Brielle's smile froze. Kingston exploded. Serafina, watch your mouth. How dare you slander Brielle? Slander? Then explain why every gift you give me shows up on her wrist a week later. Explain why our fights hit the break room gossip mill the next morning. And how she knows about the mole on your chest. Shut up. Crack, his palm blasted across my face. My ears rang. Around the room eyes glittered, some pitying, some amused. When the buzzing stopped I heard him shout. Fine, Serafina, you win. Starting now, whoever leaves 520 comments under Brielle's and my couple selfie, I'll sign the papers and make it official with her. He yanked Brielle toward the door. As they passed she tossed me a look of unmasked triumph. People drifted out. Mockery floated back, overplayed her hand, now it's too late to regret. Someone urged, go apologize fast, or the boss really will dump you. I recognized the usual tactic to force my surrender, but this time I refused to play. Soon the suite was empty. I tossed back what remained in my glass, the burn made my eyes water. 20-some years of love can end in a scene this ugly. Fine, once I'm on the high plateau frontier, the sky is wide and the emperor far away. Back home I started packing. Kingston and I grew up together, most of my life holds pieces of him. Item after item surfaced, the first tiny paper flower he earned in kindergarten, sprinted over to give me, little Serafina, the best is always for you. The day my first period came, when I thought I was dying and shyly bequeathed him my last wishes, he'd laughed himself sick, bought me pads, and Googled how to use them with me. The college years spent long distance, folders thick with train tickets, over 200,000 kilometers of chasing each other. And the pair of custom wedding bands. When he slid mine on, he swore, "Serafina, you're shackled to me for life." In the end, he was the one who let go. When Brielle first joined Vance, her self-review report had been a disaster, utterly unremarkable. Somehow Kingston promoted her anyway, straight to his side as executive secretary. The first red flag, the knockoff of my one-of-a-kind wedding band glinting on her finger. At first he still offered excuses, later only impatience. I yielded 1 inch, he and Brielle advanced 10. Company dinners ordered around her palate. She worked 3 days a week yet collected the top bonus. Her workload dumped on me, while Kingston sang her praises, were sensible, more thoughtful than me. It wasn't until that afternoon tea that she drank from his milk tea cup, using the same straw. He took it back and kept sipping as if nothing had happened. In that instant it felt as if someone had reached in and crushed my heart. After that, Brielle's boundary crossings grew bolder. She personally rubbed sunscreen on him, swapped out the lunch I'd packed for him, and on our anniversary she feigned a fever so he'd cancel our plans. Every time I got upset, Kingston said the same thing, "Serafina, your mind is filthy so everything looks filthy to you. We're just pure, platonic friends." Pure enough that you took her to a mandatory spouse banquet instead of me? When I asked, he turned it back on me. "I'm just helping Brielle network. Why are you so damned petty?" That fight dragged on longer than any before, so long I thought we were really finished. Then a single text, "Babe, my head hurts," shattered my resolve all over again. The cycle repeated until I was exhausted. I tossed the velvet ring box into the trash. At the back of the drawer I found the apology letter he'd written at 20 because I'd been mad he'd ignored my messages. Back then he'd been terrified of upsetting me. Now? The only person he worries about is Brielle. I tore the letter to pieces and threw it away too. When I was done, the apartment looked empty, and my heart felt just as hollow. The staff WhatsApp thread was still exploding. Photos showed Brielle feeding Kingston cake while colleagues gushed, "CEO Kingston and Brielle, perfect match. Every guy needs a girl as thoughtful as Brielle." I couldn't stand another second. I contacted attorney and pulled my funding from Vance. The next morning I came to clear my personal things. I found Brielle in a silk slip, perched on my desk. My belongings were crammed into a cardboard box by the door. This corner office had been custom designed for me. The whole company knew it was my space. I called the police. In the mediation room, Brielle whimpered, "I only came to grab a file for Kingston." "Was that worth all this drama, Serafina? It's my office. Did you have my permission?" "I didn't steal anything. Taking without asking is stealing." Her face changed and she burst into tears. Sure enough, when I turned, Kingston was in the doorway, livid. "Kingston!" Brielle flung herself into his arms. "Serafina insists I was stealing. He gives me so many gifts. Why would I want her cheap stuff?" Kingston held her while smiling apologetically at the officers. "Misunderstanding, we're all family here." Then he spun and glared at me. "Serafina, when did you get this nasty? Throwing your weight around a subordinate, impressive. Apologize to Brielle, now." Brielle sniffled, "Don't blame her, it's all my fault. I'll go to jail if it stops you two fighting." Kingston squeezed her hand, then said coldly to me, "Hear that? She's defending you. And FYI, this office belongs to Vance, you only have usage rights. Keep this up and I'll countersue for libel." He walked out with his arm around her. Before the door closed he shot back, "Comment counts at 515. If you still stay silent, I really will replace you." Seeing the triumph glittering in Brielle's eyes, I finally got it. Clumsy tricks don't matter, he lets them work. Only I kept foolishly begging for peace. He stopped loving me long ago. The whole circus is just a way to force me out. Once that sank in, the last ember of love for Kingston died. During the days before I left for the high plateau frontier, several rubbernecking colleagues messaged me, 518. "Beg now or your husband's gone." "Wow, you're holding out. Figured you can't beat Brielle so you're hiding?" I blocked and deleted them all. When the counter hit 519, the entire staff went quiet. Nobody wanted the honor of posting the last one. Kingston's face turned thunderous. Just as he was working out his next move, someone burst in yelling, "CEO Kingston! 520, someone finally see." Commented. Kingston's office door flew open, Junior stumbled in, panting. Rage twisted Kingston's features, shot through with a flicker of panic. He stared at Junior and spat, "Who? Which account?" Junior flinched and handed over his phone. The avatar beside comment number 520 was the couple selfie we'd snapped at City Hall when we got our marriage license. The username, Serafina. The message was a single line, "CEO Kingston, wishing you and Brielle a lifetime of happiness." The divorce petition, already signed. The whole floor fell deathly silent. Kingston's gaze lifted from the screen, slashing through the crowd, hunting for me. I rose from my workstation holding the still-warm divorce petition I'd just printed and met his stare. His pupils contracted, every trace of color drained from his face. He had pictured every scenario, me weeping, begging, my parents stepping in, me smashing furniture, everything except me handing him the execution blade myself. This was no truce, it was a declaration of war, delivered with the very tactic he prided himself on, a slap that echoed through the tower. I ended the farce and shattered his sense of superiority. Serafina, he growled, striding toward me, malice rolling off him. You planned this? You think humiliating me like this is clever? Humiliate? I smiled and offered the papers again. I'm giving you what you want. 520 comments, your own condition, now met. Sign, Kingston. He didn't take them, his eyes locked on mine, swirling with fury, shock, and the wounded disbelief of a traitor who suddenly feels betrayed. Pathetic. Kingston. Brielle slipped in on cue, eyes red as she clung to him. Serafina, how could you? Kingston only said those things in anger, you're using them to make him a laughingstock? Her words were gasoline on his rage. He snatched the petition and, right in front of me, shredded it with a vicious rip. Scraps drifted down like snow, catching in my hair, on my shoulders. Divorce? Kingston sneered, cruelty gleaming in his voice. Keep dreaming, Serafina. I'm not granting it. You want to leave? Fine, leave with nothing. Your equity stake in Vance, the properties, the cars, you won't keep a cent. I'll leave you ruined and see how defiant you are then. He thought this would scare me, that I would compromise again to protect my assets. I stared at his face, twisted with rage, and felt nothing but a stranger. I lifted my hand and brushed the scraps of paper from my shoulder, a casual motion, as if dusting away a speck. Kingston, I said, meeting his eyes, every word deliberate and calm, you forget, the money I funneled into Vance was my premarital personal fund. Every cent it's multiplied, my lawyer will tally with you line by line. As for the house and cars, fine. Those things have never mattered as much as a clean slate to me. I turned away from them and walked toward my office. He stood rooted, apparently stunned by my finality. In his arms Brielle's face had paled to panic. What she wanted was to marry the CEO of Vance in a blaze of glory, not the hollowed-out shell that would remain once most of the capital was yanked. She clutched Kingston's sleeve, tears on cue. Brother Kingston, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have put you in this position. Sister Serafina, please reconsider, don't do this because of me. I stepped inside my office and shut the door, cutting off every sound from outside. Sunlight slipped through the blinds, striping the floor. I drew a breath and dialed my lawyer. Attorney, start the paperwork. A brief silence, then a steady okay. I hung up and looked out the window. This war had only just begun. And what Kingston had torn to pieces wasn't the petition, it was the last chance we had left. Kingston's retaliation arrived faster, and more childishly, than I expected. The next day every bank card and credit line in my name was frozen. He had pulled strings, citing marital asset dispute, to lock my cash flow. Thou. GHT starvation would bring me to heel. Then the rumor spread through headquarters, that I'd cheated during the marriage, siphoned money, been caught red-handed by Kingston, and was lashing out with divorce to save face. Each tale carried names, job titles, even timeline proof. Only Brielle could dress sleaze in such reasonable lace. I ignored it all. My flight to the high plateau frontier was booked, the vitals had already been shipped west. And money? I wasn't so easily cornered. The supplementary card my parents gave me still worked, Kingston didn't have the reach to cancel that. My final appearance at headquarters was to finish the pull-out paperwork. Attorney had delivered the formal notice to the board, Vance stock dropped 7% before lunch. I waited in the conference room for signatures when Kingston stalked in, Brielle right behind, equally grim. Serafina, do you have to torch everything? He slammed a report in front of me, a risk appraisal showing the project's imminent cash flow collapse, the same initiative we'd toasted as his turning point. You begged me to bankroll it, I said evenly. I'm merely reclaiming what's mine. How is that torching anything? We're husband and wife. Your money is my money. The words burst out, only after did he register how crass he sounded, and his face darkened further. Not anymore. I slid the signed sheet back. The moment you let me be humiliated in front of the entire staff, CEO Vance, we stopped being. His chest rose and fell, eyes boring into me, hunting for the smallest trace of hesitation or nostalgia. There was none. My heart had died that night at the birthday gala, under the slap, inside the 520 mocking comments. Fine, great. He laughed in fury, scrawled his signature with violent flair. Serafina, you'll regret this. Without the title Vance, you're nothing. I picked up my copy and rose. Wait. Brielle stepped forward, a victor's smile pinned in place, one hand resting on the gentle curve under her dress. Sister Serafina, I almost forgot, I'm pregnant. Kingston's baby. We'll marry soon. I hope you'll come to the wedding. I glanced from her to Kingston's silent confirmation, and a surprising lightness filled me. The boulder I'd carried for years finally rolled away. Really? Congratulations. My smile was sincere. But the CEO may have omitted one detail. Once I pull my funding, Vance's funding gap is crater-sized. Your unborn child had better pray it isn't born wearing 10 million in debt. Brielle's face blanched. Kingston's fingers clamped around my wrist so hard the bones ground together. What do you mean? I wrenched free and locked my eyes on his frantic ones. Kingston, from this minute, whatever becomes of you and your company is no longer my concern. I walked out and never looked back. Behind me Brielle's tear-choked shrieks and Kingston's smothered roars sounded like some last-century elegy fading into the distance. High above, en route to the frontier, I powered down my phone after a message from my college roommate. Serafina, check the business wires, Vance is imploding. I hesitated, then tapped the link. The headline screamed, Vance Project Flow, faces massive breach penalties, founder Kingston face unlimited personal liability. According to the story, my yanked capital had been the keystone, flush with overconfidence. Kingston had moved the money before follow-on financing closed. Without that pillar the whole edifice caved overnight. Partners fled, banks demanded repayment, suppliers camped outside headquarters. The once invincible Vance empire was toppling in real time. Watching clouds drift past the porthole, I felt nothing, no vindictive thrill, no pity. I had only taken back what had always been mine, his hubris had shattered the rest. When the plane touched down, the plateau sun was crystal and sharp. I rented an SUV and followed the map I'd sketched, no fixed destination, wherever the road ended well. DB enough. The first week I stopped in a Tibetan hamlet where the sky looked scrubbed blue and the villagers smiled with unpolished warmth. I stayed in a family-run guest house, spending my days learning to make butter tea with the landlady or driving to the nearby snow-capped mountains and alpine lakes. I slowly weaned myself off the habit of checking my phone every other minute, and Kingston and all the sordid mess stopped haunting my thoughts. Then, one night, an unknown number lit up my screen. I picked up. A long silence pulsed on the other end, broken only by suppressed, ragged breathing. Serafina. It was Kingston. Hoarse, exhausted, nothing like the man who used to radiate unshakable confidence. Something you need? I asked, voice as calm as if a stranger were calling. My coldness seemed to cut him, he hesitated before speaking. Where are you? A place you'll never find. Do you hate me that much? A tremor cracked his words. Serafina, I was wrong. I was a bastard, blinded by stupidity. Come back, okay? Just come back and reinvest the money, I'll give you anything you want. I'll cut Brielle off this second, kick her and the baby out. Let's go back to the way we were, please? Back to the way we were? I almost laughed out loud. Kingston, weren't you so in love with her you divorced me? Wasn't she the light of your life? Now your company is on the brink, and that light can't illuminate your bank balance anymore? I never loved her. I've always loved you, she was just a fling, enough. I cut him off. Kingston, the only person you've ever loved is yourself. You're calling because you need my help. In your eyes, I'm your last resort, a spare tire you can yank out whenever convenient. Silence stretched on his end. Serafina, he finally rasped, voice raw with tears, for the sake of everything we've shared for 20 years, help me one last time. 20 years? I echoed softly, lifting my gaze to the window outside. Overhead, the Milky W. I shimmered, stars scattered like diamonds. I thought of the hand-built spacecraft replica I'd spent 8 months assembling, of the night he promised we'd stay together forever. Kingston, you burned through those 20 years every time you sided with Brielle, every time you raised a hand to me, every time you gambled our marriage away. It died the moment you tore up the divorce petition, shredded it into pieces. I ended the call and blocked his number. Night wind slipped in through the window, carrying the scent of snow-capped peaks. I felt exquisitely free. The wedding band that once cuffed my heart had crumbled into dust. I left the mountain village and kept heading west, crossing desolate gravel flats, watching crimson sunsets sink over endless dunes, gazing at the brightest star pinned in the black velvet sky. I began teaching myself photography, capturing every landscape that moved me and every fleeting moment of humanity. My social feed, once plastered with Kingston's shadow, now bloomed with vast vistas and candid smiles. I was no longer Vance, I was simply Serafina. Friends still passed along whispers about Kingston. Vance had finally toppled into bankruptcy liquidation. He's drowning in debt, every mansion and sports car auctioned off. The man who once commanded boardrooms has plunged from the clouds to the muck overnight. As for Brielle, once she saw Vance was beyond salvaging, she marched straight to a clinic, aborted the baby, and disappeared with Kingston's last wad of cash. Some say she surfaced in another city, others say she latched onto a new patron. She never loved Kingston, just the empire at his feet. Once that empire vaporized, she bolted faster than anyone. Word is Kingston cracked. They found him slumped over a bar, blind drunk, mumbling my name over and over. Friends recited the tale as juicy gossip and asked if I felt vindicated. I shook my head. No triumph, no pity. What became of him had nothing to do with me. We were two intersecting lines that brushed at one fated point, then drifted forever apart. One afternoon I was at Qinghai photographing migrating waterfowl when a man in a baseball cap stepped beside me. Vance? I turned, the face was unfamiliar. I'm Xavier, a documentary filmmaker. He extended a hand, smile warm. I followed your photographs for a while, I love them. Your lens captures something raw and alive. I'm assembling a crew for a documentary on Western landscapes. Would you consider joining us as director of photography? I stared, stunned. I'd never imagined my weekend hobby gaining professional notice. I'm probably not qualified. You are. Xavier's gaze was earnest. Your images tell stories, carry emotion, something plenty of formally trained shooters never manage. Our team needs someone exactly like you. Looking at his card, then at the sweeping plateau framed in my viewfinder, it hit me. The moment I set my past down and walked toward the horizon, new horizons rushed to meet me. Life could be more than salvaged love, it could be dreams, careers, galaxies still uncharted. I took the card and smiled. All right, I'm in. At that instant, wind off the lake lifted my hair and sunlight drenched my face, radiant and warm. I knew my rebirth had officially begun. Life with Xavier's team turned hectic and fulfilling. We drove thousands of miles, gear rattling in the back, crisscrossing the high plateau frontier, from the snow line of the Chilean range to the singing dunes of Taklamakan, from Tibetan antelope on the Kakexili prairie to the wind-chiseled yardongs of Lop Nur. The work was grueling, frozen nights waiting for dawn on a sub-zero ridge, broiling afternoons baking under a merciless sun for a 40-second shot. Yet inside me thrived a calm I'd never known. Every majestic frame we locked and vaporized the hardship into pure triumph. Xavier was brilliant behind the lens and tireless in spirit, erudite, witty, obsessive over the smallest visual detail. We argue ourselves hoarse about a silhouette or a sliver of rim light, then share beers around a campfire minutes later, talking cinema and distant dreams until the embers dimmed. He never asked about my past, he only draped a thick jacket around my shoulders whenever I drifted into a daze beneath the star-scattered sky. The plateau temperature drops fast, don't catch cold. His voice was always gentle. Little by little I grew used to this rhythm of togetherness, simple, pure, free of suspicion, free of wounds. We would spend a full year shooting the documentary. On the day we wrapped filming we lit a bonfire out on the vast gravel desert and held our wrap party. Everyone drank too much, sang and danced, then sprawled in their sleeping bags, crooked limbs pointing every which way, staring up at the dense galaxies above us. Xavier sat beside me and handed me a can of beer. What are you thinking? He asked. That a year ago I never could have pictured living like this. I took a swallow, the icy liquid slid down my throat. Back then I thought my life was doomed to orbit one man, every joy, every sorrow decided by him. And now? Now, I answered, looking at him, then at the stars overhead, smiling, my life belongs to me. Where I want to go, I go. What I want to do, I do. Feels amazing. Xavier smiled too, his eyes sparking in the firelight. Serafina, when I first saw your photos online I knew you were different. In your frames the landscape is the star, yet the real protagonist is you. With your lens you're having a conversation with the world. My heart gave a quiet flutter. He hesitated, nervous, then mustered the courage to press on. Post-production for the documentary will take us back to Beijing, about 6 months. After that, my next film will be an Aurora expedition. Would you come with me? He didn't ask me to be his cinematographer, didn't ask me to be his girlfriend, He simply asked whether I'd like to go see the next horizon at his side. I looked into those expectant eyes and didn't answer right away, not from doubt, but to bid farewell to the girl who once knelt low, timid, convinced love was her entire universe. I was giving one last goodbye. I lifted my beer can and tapped his. Sure, I said, smiling. He blinked, then burst into bright, unrestrained laughter. The Gobi wind swept in and scattered the last miasma of the past. I knew I could finally march toward the next mountain, the next sea, without looking back. After Notes from the West debuted, it met runaway success. We scooped several major domestic awards and even made the short list of an overseas festival. As director of photography, I was starting to build a name in the industry. On awards night, I wore a minimalist gown, stood on stage, and accepted the weighty industry award from the presenter's hands. Under the spotlights, I gazed down at Xavier's smiling eyes and the ecstatic faces of our crew, heart brimming with wonder. After the ceremony, I went backstage to remove my makeup before the celebration banquet. A staff member slipped in and handed me a note. Vance, there's a gentleman outside who says he's an old friend. I unfolded the slip. The handwriting was unmistakable, those same forceful strokes, though the final flourish quavered. Waiting in the parking garage. Can we talk? Kingston. I held the note a moment, silent. In the end, I went, not for lingering love, but to draw the cleanest possible line beneath my past. In a shadowed corner of the garage, Kingston leaned against a battered second-hand sedan, smoking. He'd thinned, haggard, hair unkempt, stubble heavy, a cheap windbreaker looking paper-thin in the slicing cold. No trace remained of the once high-spirited CEO. Seeing me, he stubbed out the cigarette in a hurry and straightened, awkward. Serafina, you came. His voice was dry and husky. What do you need? I stopped a few steps away, tone distant, level. He fished a small velvet ring box from his pocket and held it out. This is yours to take back. I didn't accept, I merely glanced at it, the wedding band I'd thrown away. I hadn't expected him to fish it out of the trash. I don't want it. His hand froze midair, face flooded with bitterness. Serafina, I know anything I say now arrives too late. After the bankruptcy, I had time to think. I ruined everything we had. If time could flow backward, I swear there is no rewind. I cut him off. Kingston, we both keep moving forward. He lowered his head, shoulders trembling, like a boy who knows he's wrong. I watched your documentary, truly beautiful. You on that stage, radiant, more stunning than ever. Thank you. I'm not here begging forgiveness. He lifted his head, bloodshot eyes bore a clarity I'd never seen. I just needed to tell you, face to face, I'm sorry. And I wish you happiness. With those words, his strength seemed spent. He set the velvet box gently on the hood, gave me one last long look, then turned and, back stooped, walked step by step into the dark. I watched him go, no call to stop him, no final remark. I knew this was the last time our paths would cross. Xavier appeared beside me, shrugged off his tux jacket, and draped it over my shoulders. It's finished? He asked. Yes, finished. I turned and smiled at him. He took my hand, squeezing tight. Then let's go home. All right, home. Side by side we walked toward the other end of the garage where our car waited, where our friends waited, where the Aurora expedition we'd promised each other waited. I glanced back once. That ring box sat lonely under the dim light, a footnote to a past now insignificant. A gust carried the chill of a Beijing winter night, yet I felt nothing but warmth, because I knew my life would never again be shackled by anyone or anything. My journey is the stars, the open sea. Thanks for listening to tonight's story. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up and share with friends. We look forward to reading your comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more captivating tales. See you next time.